So why don't we jump right into our headline topic, the Valve Steam Deck. And I want to
Yes.
start with what is going to be my harshest criticism of this new hardware endeavor
Let's
from
go.
Valve.
Yes, okay.
All right, this is my hot take. This is the worst thing about it. The name sucks.
It's terrible.
It's
Yeah,
terrible.
it's horrible.
It's terrible. The Stream Deck has existed for years.
Yes.
For years, the Elgato Stream Deck, which is even a gaming device, for years it's existed. It's been in the market, and it's the only thing that kind of sounds like that.
Which, like, is external to the computer and technically has screens on it and is flat and is black.
Why?
Which is, like, even more annoying.
Why deck?
Yeah, that too. Like, what? I don't know.
Steam,
I understand the Stream Deck. That actually does make sense to me. Steam Deck, no.
Steam Boy, I'd have been like, lol, okay, and Nintendo's coming for you. You know,
Nintendo would be coming for him, yeah, for sure.
Steam. Okay, so here, fine. It's not helpful to criticize something unless you come up with something better. So, Luke, we got to work on this then. So, Steam.
Well, there's been a pretty good one. There's been two. There's one that I like more. So to give the community ones first before we try to come up with things.
Hit me.
There's one in the dock that calls it's called the Gabe Boy. There's the Gabe Boy, Boy Advanced, and Gabe Boy Advanced SP. That one's funny. I believe that was put in here by Anthony. No. Anthony contributed a very large amount of topics this week, so we only really have a doc because of Anthony. So thank you, Anthony. Very funny.
What a king.
But the other, I agree. That wasn't sarcastic. That was actually, I know it could probably sound that way, but it wasn't. We would have like 2 topics if it wasn't for Anthony. He actually completely bailed us out. Thank you very much. But the other community one, which I do think is better, is Gabe Gear.
No, you can't have Gabe's name in the name of the thing. Like, I have no problem with them calling it Steam something. You know, Steam Pad or Steam. I don't know. Steam. I mean, what's something kind of like
Steam Deck is too close to Stream Deck. That's all. That's just the main problem. And it's not an unheard of device. A lot of people know the Stream Deck, so it's just annoying. Honestly, when I first read the name, I thought it was called Stream Deck, and I thought they just straight up completely ripped off the name from Elgato.
Because it's not like Valve doesn't have a streaming service. Well,
that
not
was
really a
my
service,
whole
but
thought was like, yeah, okay, so this is to remotely play games from your desktop
using Valve like Steam and home streaming, which I don't know what they call it. And remote play, is it called? No, remote play is when you're playing a local multiplayer game with someone remotely. Sorry, I can't keep track of all the different things they call stuff. The point is,
especially when they call it Steam Deck.
I'm frustrated. The good news is that everything else about this thing looks absolutely freaking awesome. Let's haul up the product page here. Oh, man, I even typed Stream Deck while I was trying to search for it. Bloody hell. Okay.
Your mind immediately goes to Stream Deck. It's a problem.
Oh, that's not the screen capture that I wanted. What happened to my... Oh, no, here we go. That's better. Steam Deck. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen. So
one thing before you get too far into it.
Yes.
Can they see the layout of it on your screen right now?
The layout of the PC?
Of the Steam Deck. Yeah.
Ignore the pricing, guys. I'm stuck on the Canadian site and I can't immediately figure out how to change it. So this is Canadian pricing. So whatever. Oh,
so my favorite thing, if they can see it, is that it more closely resembles a Wii U gamepad than most other things I have seen so far. And the Wii U gamepad was actually a delight to use. It was fantastic. I actually preferred it over the standard controllers. It was really nice. And one of the things with that is that the thumbsticks are at the top.
Okay, you're getting into nitty-gritty details here, but we got to give people the general lowdown.
Okay.
Luke, we got to give them the lowdown. So here's the basic specs. It's got a 7-inch display. It's touchscreen. It's 1280 by 800, so that's a 16 by 10 aspect ratio. 400 nits typical brightness. It's got an ambient light sensor, so that's going to help you conserve battery if you're in a dim area or whatever the case may be. It's got a Zen 2 APU, 4 cores, 8 threads, running at anywhere from, up to 3.5 gigahertz boost and up to 15 watts TDP. It's got 8 RDNA 2 CUs that run it up to 1.6 gigahertz. So this thing is actually going to be capable of running AAA games. Now, not AAA games at 4K resolution in docked mode or anything stupid like that. It's still, you know, of this earth. It's not like they went to the future and brought back technology with them, but it is going to have some serious grunt considering its size. It weighs 1.47 pounds, so that's just under 700 grams, 669 grams. Which is pretty beefy, and maybe this is our opportunity.
Must have pulled off a couple grams there to make that work. That I swear that happened.
669
that must
grams.
Have happened. Yes,
I wouldn't put it past them. But this is, I think, this is the first time that this is where we can get into a little bit of a deeper dive conversation. One of the things that you immediately said was, "Wow, this reminds me of the Wii U gamepad controller." Unfortunately, this thing weighs 67% more than a Nintendo Switch plus Joy-Cons, and considering that the Wii U controller was just a screen and buttons and
it was really light.
Wireless, yeah, it was extremely light. That's one of the reasons that the Wii U controller was so comfortable. It was also thick because it wasn't designed to be carried out and about with you. The Steam Deck is obviously thinner and is going for something more akin to a Nintendo Switch type of experience. So that's something that is immediately going to be tough, but I also have a counter argument to that I'll get into a little bit later that involves this guy right here.
My main note about the Wii U controller is the way that this shoulder button, and I'm not saying this hasn't been done before by any alternatives, which is I think what you're kind of getting into, but the way that the where you hold it is shaped, the way the triggers are shaped, and the position of the thumbsticks and the ABXY buttons. That is all very nice. One of my biggest issues with the Switch was that they put that one thumbstick in like the middle of the controller. Yeah. And it made it really weird. And I really liked that the Wii U had both the thumbsticks way at the top, and it was kind of less great that the ABXY was below it, but you almost never used that, so it didn't matter. And I think it's pretty cool in this one how they're side by side. I don't think that's going to be uncomfortable to control.
With smaller hands,
it might be for small hands.
I have some concerns. Like if my kids tried to use this thing, for my hands, it looks okay. But if like my kids tried to use it or something like that, I think it might be a little bit more challenging.
Right.
It looks pretty darn well thought out. And Valve has a history of thinking through the ergonomics of things, at least to the point where you can definitely go, well, they definitely thought this through. I mean, the Steam controller, bloody hell, what'd they call that thing? Did they just call it Steam controller? They did. The Steam controller was ergonomic. It's just that the touchpad didn't really work for me. What's fascinating about this is that they clearly haven't abandoned the touchpad paradigm. No. They just have recognized now that it's not perfect for everything. They had us using the touchpad instead of joysticks, whereas here, now we've got a touchpad, well, actually, rather touchpads in addition to joysticks, which opens up all kinds of options, both for ambidextrous players or left-handed players, as well as for different gameplay styles, or different genres of games that you might want to play. That's extremely exciting, and I'm stoked to try it. Now, it's got 16 gigs of LPDDR5 memory. It's got a 40 watt-hour battery. That is extremely impressive considering the size of this thing. Stereo speakers, analog triggers, which is a big deal. That's one of my complaints about the thing that I was going to talk about a little bit later. A micro SD card, up to 512 gigs of M.2 storage on board, depending on which trim level you spring for. And these twin 32.5mm touchpads claim that they have 55% better latency compared to the Steam controller's touchpads. They are pressure sensitive and have HD haptics. So that's just improved feedback on the touchpads when you're swiping across them, pressing on them, all that kind of stuff. Man, 6-axis motion sensitivity. Okay, that's pretty cool. We did a video recently where I tried using the PlayStation 4 controller's gyro capabilities to game on PC. There's like a hacky way that you could do it. And I was shocked at how intuitive it was compared to trying to fine tune operate a joystick, there's pro gamers out there that are great at it. That's fine. That's great. That's wonderful. But for someone who hasn't spent their whole life working on that skill, boy, is a gyro
I think there's going to be some advanced tactic stuff too, where you do a combination. Use the thumbstick for like big sweeping movements, then you micro adjust with the aiming. But I think there's something that wasn't mentioned here, or maybe I missed it. Maybe you said it and I didn't hear it. But there's also the grip buttons on the back, which
yes.
I really like, especially like it's always been really cool in the Elite controllers and stuff. But I think on this, it makes even more sense because like I was talking about earlier, all your controls being at the top, the thumbsticks being in probably the best position, which is the outside. I think I'm correct with that. The inside, sorry. Yeah, the outside is maybe a little weird, but having those buttons on the back is going to make it so you don't have to move off, which on a heavy device, I think is going to actually be a pretty big deal.
Yep.
Be able to keep your hands in one spot and being able to press buttons there, I think is going to be a much bigger deal than it's ever been on a controller. I think it's going to be very, very important on this device.
Absolutely. It's got 2x2 AC Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 5.0, a dual microphone array. It can output 8K 60 because it's got DisplayPort 1.4 built into its USB Type-C port. And you can also use the USB-C port to connect to the official dock. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. There's a dock too. It'll be sold separately. More information coming soon, but it's got DisplayPort, HDMI, Type-C, as well as that looks like an audio jack. Hold on a second. It's in my notes. USB 3.1 Type-A. So 2 of those. Effectively, it turns this into a full desktop PC experience. There's Ethernet, and so there's one USB 3, 2 USB 2s. Sorry, I think I misspoke earlier. I don't see... That's probably power. That's probably power over on the left there because I would expect you to handle audio just plugging into the jack that's built into the Steam Deck itself. Man, I hope they get the joysticks right. I mean, it seems like everyone and their dog is going through joystick gate right now, whether it's Nintendo with their drift or whether it's Sony that's had a real heck of a time with feedback on their PlayStation 5 controller, which is otherwise freaking awesome to the point where Microsoft is reportedly looking at doing a mid-generation refresh of their controller to try and achieve something closer to feature parity. I hope Valve gets it just right on this thing, but the reality of it is that it's extremely challenging to build both an accurate and robust joystick in something that is so low profile. I understand why everyone's screwing it up, even companies that have a ton of experience. I just don't like it because joystick's not working sucks.
Yes.
Absolutely sucks.
If there's anything that's going to make you want to put a game down, that's definitely one of them.
Okay.
An official dock is going to be sold separately. This is actually super cool.
Oh, we talked about
that
already.
This. Oh, sorry.
Yep.
I hope there's unofficial ones as well. But.
One thing that's kind of stupid about the official dock and about the device, actually, I'm not a huge fan of this. I saw some praise for it for having its USB-C charging port on the top because they said it'll make it easier to game while you're charging. Yeah, I can see that because especially with a heavy device like this one, this weighs about the same amount. Sometimes I do find myself wanting to rest it, but I also don't mind resting it kind of like this with my wrists, making it so that the cable can get out, and having something hanging off the top. I'm not a huge fan of that, especially if it's kind of a bulkier wire. And it also makes the dock kind of stupid because their dock requires you to put the thing in and then run a cable. So it's not really a dock so much as it's a dongle.
You might have already said this, considering you already mentioned the dock, but they also said that regular USB-C adapters will work fine.
That's cool.
I doubt actually all, but they said all USB-C docks will work. So,
I mean, I see no reason why one wouldn't.
Yeah, I just, I don't know. A hazard to say just like literally anything will function.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
All right.
But I don't suspect you're going to run into issues is what I'm trying to get across.
This is great. Hershey Chap over on Floatplane says it would be cool if Linux was on the Steam Deck, kind of like Steam machines. Hey, I'm so glad you brought it up because yes, it is running SteamOS. What is it? SteamOS 3.0? Hold on. Blah, blah, blah. Oh, where's my notes? Yep. SteamOS 3.0, which is Arch Linux based. It's got... let's see. Hold on. There's some really good information in here. Yes. Now, obviously, because it's Linux, you're going to have some issues with game compatibility, particularly games with strong anti-cheat. So there's a handful of games, including, shoot, which one was I? I was looking at a list of them before this, and now I've gone and misplaced it. But 4 of the top 10 games on Steam right now have issues with anti-cheat in Linux, running Valve's Proton. But Valve is apparently reaching out to those developers and trying to work specifically on those games to make sure that Proton, which is a compatibility layer that allows you to run Windows games on Linux, will have proper support for those. I am pretty excited. So this is a quote.
if you ever end up in a Linux debate or a Linux conversation in general, after owning one of these, you can confidently say that you run Arch.
I know, right? So their goal is for every game to work with Proton by the time they ship Steam Deck. That should give you some idea of how long this has been in the works. What it seems like is they basically tried that whole Steam Machines thing, which was like the desktop, or rather the TV consoles, kind of went, okay, yeah, this didn't work. We didn't do the whole killer app thing. Also, it's just a computer. It's hard to compete against just computers. Forget it. See you later. That project clearly never died. It looks like it just transitioned to a handheld, and the timing is so right for this to happen.